do you see your fellow colleagues as competition, or how would you describe? And I love it because you have been in several firms, so it's not only that you've been only in one. But how would you describe overall this industry, and how do colleagues and bosses and superiors see themselves? Is it a very raw ambient in which everyone sees themselves as a competition, or will you say it's very healthy environment, or something in between?
I think there that specific characteristic, it's very different among firms, and not only among firms, but within the same firm, it's different among offices. So in my personal experience, at the first office I was in, the people I was competing, quote unquote, competing with were very, very close friends of mine. I mean, you know them. They we studied together at chemical engineering, and most of people were from the same school, and we were very close friends. And the dynamics of the office just was great in terms of team cohesion. So I never felt like was I was competing, or I never had any negative bias towards any of my colleagues in terms of what of a sum zero game. Whatever they lost, I would gain, or whatever I lose, they would gain. Never, not at all. It was a positive sum game in which when they perform well, I could learn from what great did they do, and that would benefit myself. So it was good for me that they were great performance, and in reverse as well. When I was doing really good, and I was thriving on a specific project, I'd be able to share that with them, and they'd be able to replicate it. And business was going well as well. That's another um, probably another variable that affects the dynamics and the culture of the office. If the business is working, if projects are selling, and if we all have work, and there's enough size, there's enough growth available to be shared amongst most employees. So that also allows that game to not be zero sum. So those variables, and there are probably other there's probably some part of personal chemistry amongst colleagues and whatnot, that also allowed, and the way the leadership led the office, and other probably variables that I'm missing. But during those first 4 years, on my experience, it was very positive sum game, competitive, but very healthy competitive, and that helped a lot in a very accelerated career path. In the other firms, or for other friends of mine that worked at different firms, I saw that it was very much going like the zero sum game kind of dynamics. As to the ranking would be dependent of the performance of each person, and if one person performed better, then by definition you would require to be ranked lower, and be required to be compensated lower, and etc., etc. So so that 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 I think that exists a lot. That is more likely, I think that's the case in which the competition is not as healthy, and the personal relationships are not always as close. It's a very hard balance to find, I think, and I would say I was very fortunate at the beginning. At my second stage, at my second firm, I entry at a more senior level, so my dynamics were very, very different, and my role was very, very different from the first one. So I didn't have enough um, I didn't have a significant time frame to extract a conclusive idea, or to have a straight answer for that. But I think that the very fact that I was at a more senior level, and the culture was completely different, changed the whole dynamic, definitely. However, I think more often than not, the dynamic is not the most sorry, the dynamic is not the most healthy. So yeah,
Okay, yeah, like a Shark Tank, right?
exactly, completely.
Check out the full episode at chemical.engineering.guy.com/forward podcast. I'll see you there.